Welcome to Caffeinated Flicks. I'm Celeste.
And I'm Kenzie. We're two chicks who drink coffee
and celebrate flicks from diverse directors.
If you like what you're hearing so far, take a moment to follow us in your favorite podcasting app.
And give us a rating or review. Here's the show.
So today we have a very special guest, Chelsey Weber-Smith. And what's really great is that this is our first actual holiday movie of the season for our podcast. So super excited to have you with us today, Chelsey.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, this is a movie that, is very polarizing even within my own soul. So I appreciate being invited.
I'm so glad. When I was planning out what movies to do, I just started listening to American Hysteria, and I was like, I think Chelsey would be so good for this movie. So I'm so delighted that you said yes. So I'm going to go a little bit into Chelsey's background. Feel free to interrupt me if I speak too long, because I have a tendency to over research, but
it's a good tendency.
Yay. So Chelsey Weber-Smith is a queer non-binary poet turned podcaster who is continuously working to understand both American culture on a grand scale and the mysteries of humanity. They went from graduating with a degree in poetry to getting their start in podcasting as a blogger and content producer of an entertainment company. It was there that Chelsey suggested creating a podcast behind true crime, and they are now the writer, co-producer, and host of American Hysteria, a show that investigates our moral panics, urban legends, conspiracy theories, and archetypes. Basically, the brand of American Hysteria is fantastical thinking. So Chelsey loves people, the world, and throughout all of their various works is trying to figure out how different perspectives can be illuminated and how we can all relate to one another and understand each other. By using humor and poetics, they hope to ease people into difficult truths, to educate with care and understanding, and especially when it comes to issues of race, class, gender, and sexuality, as well as what Prince said it, to get through this thing that we call life.
Yes.
So Chelsey likes to travel around the country in their truck and builds campfires and describes themselves as a gay, suburban, sad sack outlaw country boy who likes to go for long walks. I'm sorry. I had to put that in there when I was reading your bio. I was like, I love this.
I like it. You definitely did your research.
Did. I think I found your a couple of different interviews with you on 4 or 5 different sites. And I was like, okay, we're going to compile all this into somewhat of a concise
Yeah, it's great.
bio.
I appreciate it. Sometimes I'll go as a guest on shows and people are like, your name is, and what's your show? You're just like, well, you don't know why I'm here. Yeah. So I am appreciating your tact.
Thank you. Like I said, I've become a big fan of American Hysteria now, and goodness gracious, your sister podcast, You're Wrong About, that's the one, which I've heard you on several times. And you're also now I've seen your name 1,000 times. It's like when you get a car and you see the car everywhere.
Oh, funny.
And so I see your name in a couple of different places, like the Bechdel cast and What You're Wrong About and You Are Good, which used to be, gosh, what was
Why
it
Are
now?
Dads?
What Are Dads? Yes.
Why Are Dads?
Oh, Why Are Dads? Sorry.
Both are good questions.
Yes. Very much so. So I'm so delighted that you joined us today once again.
Thank you.
Welcome. I have a tendency to fangirl, so if that happens, I apologize in advance.
I have a tendency to enjoy it. So
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
I'm just kidding. No, but it's nice.
So, as I previously stated, we do like to start off with what are you caffeinating with today? So, Chelsey, since you are our guest, I'm going to let you take the floor.
Okay. Embarrassingly, Nespresso with their pods. Pop in the pod. I got myself a latte. It's one of those grown-up purchases that you make, and it's nice. I like it. I make myself little lattes. I made a latte today, oat milk latte, and sometimes I also drink Earl Grey tea. I haven't had one today, but I've been getting back on a Earl Grey tea tip. But today I'm on a double shot of Nespresso, but run through twice. So I like to call that a cool 3 shots. I think that's
Right.
the mathematical logic there. So yeah, that's what's fueling me today.
I'm going to call that a triple ristretto shot is what I'm going to call it. Do you remember
Cool.
ristretto shots, Celeste?
I was thinking a long shot, but would that be the equivalent to
Oh,
a
yeah.
ristretto? Yeah, one of those.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll have to redo our
Yeah.
espresso trainings.
Well,
I'm good.
Celeste always likes to remind me that she's blacked out our time at
Yeah.
Starbucks together.
As I'm sure most ex-Starbucks employees
fair
do.
enough.
So
Speaking of which, Chelsey, you live in the home of Starbucks, right? In Seattle.
I do. We have the very first Starbucks down by Pike Place Market, and there's always a very long, like around the corner line just to get in that first Starbucks. And I don't really know what's in there. I don't know if there's like, I'm sure there's like original merch and things like that, which I'm sure it could be fun to see. And you have like your original Starbucks lady uncensored. And yeah, it's a really popular tourist spot. And it's Seattle. We don't have a ton of things going on. So.
I don't know about that. But to be fair, when I went, I specifically went to Tacoma. So
Yeah.
there's a
I
bunch
like
to do in Tacoma.
actually. Yeah. It's different, but I do like Tacoma.
Yeah. Ironically enough, when I first started at Starbucks, I had already planned my trip to Seattle. And so I had my first day at Starbucks. And then the next day I went to Seattle. And then I got my first, what we call mark out at Starbucks, where you can get a free pound of coffee for the week or something like that. So I got my first mark out, which was Pike's Place. And I still have that bag of beans that will never be touched. And it's probably well past expired now. So
Cool.
I have been in there, and
You have your.
I can't even
Oh,
remember
okay.
what happens in there.
So nothing special then?
So I think I was just overwhelmed by how many people were there. So I was trying to get in and get
Probably.
out as fast as humanly possible.
You probably couldn't even enjoy the experience with how many people are in there, I'm sure. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does
Yeah.
taint it. So Celeste,
I had myself
Oh.
a hot chocolate this morning. So
that's nice.
nice.
a soy milk hot chocolate. I know. I know soy's
White
controversial
chocolate.
still for people, but I still drink it. I like it.
I love.
Do you
soy
put
milk.
anything on
Oh,
top of your hot chocolates?
I don't. It's very
No.
boring, classic. Just classic hot chocolate.
Things are classics for a reason, man.
We generally just eat mostly vegan in our house, but for Thanksgiving, we definitely brought in some dairy elements. And one of those dairy elements is like just the classic whipped cream for
Yeah.
pumpkin pie. And I have been shooting that like just directly in my mouth
Uh-oh.
daily, you know, just child straight in. Yeah. And it has felt very nice. It's really feeling.
Yeah. Only way to do it.
It's just that nostalgic. Like I feel so good inside because I'm,
yeah.
I'm really
yeah.
doing something that I've always wanted to do as a kid growing up. But now that I'm an adult, I have the right to do it myself.
At any
Mhm.
time of day. Yeah.
Yep.
hmm
Yes.
I love the hot chocolate, though. I think that's a lovely classic, and maybe I will get one soon as well.
Yeah, because it's finally cooling down over here. So I'm like, oh, a nice
Mhm.
hot chocolate. That was nice and cozy.
It is. It's the coziest.
Yeah. We're in Phoenix, so it's just starting to
yeah.
actually
Yeah.
feel like winter.
Anything
Or like more like a
relating,
fall.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's starting to feel more
Uh-huh.
like a fall.
Got it. Yep. You're a season behind.
Yeah. We're always
Yeah.
a season behind and a season ahead. Our weather.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well, today I went to Modern Grind around the corner, and I got myself what they called a cookie cutter latte, which was cookie butter and hazelnut. And I got
Oh.
that with almond milk and half sweet because everything's far too sweet.
That
And so
sounds like
I was
a
like, this is
decadent
perfect.
drink. Yeah.
I was going to say that is a sweet drink. Yeah. Glad you
It
have
was
it.
very good.
Does sound really, really
Sounds
really
tasty,
good,
though.
Yeah. Very.
I love holiday drinks. They bring me so much joy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Cool. So now that we are doing today, it's just called Happiest season. And I always want to
So
put
hard.
that in front of it.
I always forget what it's called, period. And I just, because it's the most basic, unremarkable name. And I often am like,
is.
Miranda, what's that movie called? So You're not alone.
I
But
just
yes,
look up
Happiest season. Yes.
Aubrey Plaza, and I'm
There
like,
you
okay,
go.
what is her filmography?
There
Okay,
you go.
there it is. So, Chelsey, what is your history with this movie?
What year did this movie come out? Was this a 2020?
2020.
God,
Recent.
it feels longer
2020,
than that.
yeah.
It feels
I know.
like it's been around forever. I think probably like many queer people, I came to it expecting it to be pretty cheesy, which is great. I love cheese, and I think that I always am excited to watch like any lesbian content or anything adjacent to any queer content, just stretching back to the days when that was very hard to come by. Like when I was growing up in like the early 2000s, it was like you got just one a year and usually someone died. The romance was like, well, and someone tried to drown the other girl and their love story was ruined. It's very like dark, dramatic stuff. And so I think that this movie was a very intentional like counter to that heaviness of the canon. So when I watched it, I watched with my partner, and this would have been during lockdown. I'm trying to remember like specific experience, but yeah, we loved to experience how bad it was going through it, just in terms of like trying to make this romantic film with the most unlikable characters, where you're like, I'm supposed to want you guys to be in love, but like your relationship is so incredibly toxic. I want you to be with Aubrey Plaza, like all of America, So I
Always.
think, and then of course Dan Levy's in there, and every time he's there, you're like, oh God, thank God Dan Levy's here, and really did a great job. And so yeah, I think I enjoyed it being as bad as it was, and also was a little bit disappointed in how bad it was, more in the like what is the message? It's like, do you both remember You've Got Mail?
Yes.
Right?
We
Oh,
actually
God.
did
Random,
meet
but
You've Got
Did
Mail.
we
like,
do that?
in the end of You've Got
Yeah.
Mail, like the winner is like the small shopkeep accepts that her business was gobbled up by the mega corp, and then they still fall in love, right? So it's kind of like,
Right.
you're like, that was really romantic, and I love this movie, but then you're like, it's like, what's the message here? What am I supposed to get? And the message in Happiest Season, I know we'll get into more, has felt a little bit like just accept the way you're treated as long as like you end up together. I don't really know, but yeah, I think we were both like pretty slack-jawed at the end. Like, wow, like that was a lot of different things. It's so slapstick. It's so the plot is a little confusing. But yeah, I think all in all, as someone who I love, and the other thing here, Emma, I will talk about this more, but like for me and my partner, we were like, this feels like a horror movie in a way that's really interesting, in the Get Out sort of canon of like, you come to this extremely like straight, obviously it's very different than Get Out, but you come into this like extremely straight situation and you're made to play this strange role in this world, and it's very unnerving. And I don't know if it's unnerving for everybody or if it's like very much like a queer experience where you like that feeling of like hiding. It just brings everybody back to this like tiptoeing around like kind of horror movie place, and that made me love it because I love horror movies, and I think we like looked at it through that lens, and it's very Hallmark as well. And last year we did a Hallmark movies episode where we dove really deep into that universe, and also looked at how similar Hallmark movies are to horror movies and how often directors do both Hallmark movies and horror movies as part of their work. So it's like, it feels like there's something really close to like the cheesy Christmas movie and the horror movie. And so for me, that's like, I love watching this movie. We will watch it every year for the rest of time. But to say that we think it's good would be incorrect, but we do love it. So that's my general experience. I'd love to hear both of yours.
Celeste knows full well that I love a bad movie. Like, I've made her watch so many bad movies. Celeste, what is your history with the movie?
I don't think you're alone in the fact that you think it's a horror movie. Because when I was looking it up online, a lot of people were saying that too, that this is a full-on horror movie. I was like, oh, okay. That's interesting. But my experience, I watched it in 2020 and I was just expecting like a cheesy rom-com. I was excited for it.
Totally. Oh, yeah.
Now I'm like, oh gosh, what are my thoughts? Are my thoughts wrong?
Feel free to love it. Feel free to completely say, no, I don't want my dislike of the movie.
No, you're fine. I definitely have my
there's something wrong with it.
I too, but like it was very controversial. And so, but at the end, there were comments I'm like, oh my God, was I wrong to think that this was like a toxic relationship? Like I had like, back and forth. Yeah. So, but yeah, I expected it to be a cheesy rom-com. And other than that, I didn't really have too much of a history with it. Kenzie, do you have a history with this movie?
I think I didn't watch it when it first came out. I think I watched it in 2021. And ironically enough, I watched this before I watched Schitt's Creek. So I didn't really know Dan Levy.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the reasons I watched it too, was because I thought Dan Levy was in it. And I was like, oh, yes, I want to watch this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think not the main characters, but the tertiary characters are my favorite. Like, they really do make this whole movie, and we'll get into it as we go through it. But to your point, Chelsey, like every single time I watch a romantic comedy, like it's all based on like lying to each other. And like at any moment you could turn and they just have a knife. Like I can definitely see how that happens. And so, especially since in this movie, Kristen Stewart's character is relegated to the basement. And I have a number one rule that basements and attics you just never go into because they're not meant for good things. So like it already fits into my particular criteria.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I love this movie, but I also like every single time I watch it, I'm like, no, you're a horrible, horrible girlfriend. Like, I don't know what else to tell you.
But you're so right about the other characters. Like there's so much, there are so many parts of this movie that are really good. There are so many good comedic moments, like the tone, once you take out Kristen Stewart and whatever the other person's name is. And I love Kristen Stewart. Don't get me wrong. I think she did fine. I think this was a direction issue more than a acting issue with the couple. But I don't know. I'm sorry, Clea, I don't know. But yeah.
Once you take out the main cast, that's great. It's a great movie.
Everything's great.
It is, but it really is like it's so good and funny, and there are like so many good parts of it. But yeah, it's just that relationship that you're supposed to root for, like the whole point of a romantic comedy. You're like supposed to root for this thing, but it does get confusing when you're like, well, I want you to break up.
So I'm gonna go ahead and get into the director now. So you had already mentioned Chelsey. The director is Clea DuVall, who is very well known in Hollywood, especially for queer iconography and just her acting in general. She's been such a breakout person for queer cinema, specifically with like, But I'm a Cheerleader. Everybody knows that one. And she's such a great actress in that one. But Clea DuVall, she was born on September 25th in Los Angeles, California. And when she was growing up, her folks got divorced when she was about 12, and then her mom remarried. She felt out of place in her new, like, remade family, essentially. So she ended up moving out as a teenager and dropping out of high school. But then she had decided that she really wanted to get into films and be an actress. So she re-entered high school at the Los Angeles High School of Arts. After graduating, her intensity and commitment and strong talent for acting led her to get all of these different roles. Some of her best known appearances are in films such as The Faculty, She's All That, which I love her in She's All That. She's so good in that movie.
Great.
But I'm a Cheerleader, Girl Interrupted, which I also adore, Identity, 21 Grams, The Grudge, Zodiac, Conviction, and Argo. And she's also had a slew of roles all over TV. In 2016, DuVall decided that she would make movies, and she had her feature directorial debut with The Intervention. And then she also wrote and co-produced that movie. And then her project is Her next project is today's movie, Happiest Season, which launched in 2020.
Awesome.
So a little bit about the cast that we already spoke about. So we've got Kristen Stewart, who plays Abby, Mackenzie Davis, who plays Harper, which is hilarious to me because I haven't seen another Mackenzie in anything forever, like since Mackenzie Phillips. So it's fun to see another Mackenzie. We got Mary Steenburgen, who plays Tipper. What a name. And then we got Victor Garber, who plays Ted, Allison Brie, who plays Sloane, Mary Holland, who plays Jane. And I'm going to just let the cat out of the bag now. She's my favorite. She's my absolute favorite in this whole movie.
I
love her to
yeah,
bits and
best
pieces.
character. Mm-hmm.
No contest.
And then we got Dan Levy, who plays John, Burr Mosley, who plays Eric, Aubrey Plaza. I swear, as much as I'm in love with her, I need to figure out how to say her name. And then Soroyu Blue, who plays Carolyn. So I don't have any fun facts about the cast right now, other than the fact that I'm absolutely in love with Aubrey Plaza. And that's all I care about. So I had mentioned a little bit ago that we do our 10 out of 10 rating and our 1 out of 10 rating. And as our guest, is there one that you would prefer to do?
I'll do the 1 out of 10.
Awesome. All right, Celeste, would you like to do the 10 out of 10, please?
Sure. Okay, so 10 out of 10. Gay and filled with Christmas joy. Where to begin? This is one of the best films I have seen all year, though admittedly, I'm a tad biased because of my undying love for Kristen Stewart and the fact that I have been waiting 5 months for it. Regardless, never have I ever felt so represented by a film before. Many aspects of this film, my story, it's done beautifully, far better than anything I could have possibly imagined. It's a heartfelt, genuinely funny film. That was exactly the kind of media that could have changed my life. That could have changed my aged 13.
My life aged 13.
Oh, my
right?
life
So she
aged
was
13.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. My bad. I am so unequivocally grateful to Clea DuVall for the creation of this movie. I'm not sure if I can't read today. I'm not sure if I'll ever have the words to describe how important this movie is, but I can say that I recommend it to you and would do so 1,000,000 times over.
See, then I read that and I'm like, don't talk shit because it's so and it's true. And it does go back to the point of like, there was nothing like this. Have either of you seen the movie Imagine Me and You from the mid 2000s?
Oh, you know what? I have that on my to watch list.
You should watch it because it's like the best. It's the best like romantic comedy in the like I'm gonna say lesbian genre because this is part of an evolving genre. But I think that movie when I watched it, the way that this what would be the word? This reviewer has written about Happy Season is how I felt about Imagine Me and You, because it was this like happy story that still touched on the negative aspects of coming out or whatever, but it still had this like romantic, warm feeling that you could connect to. And I like totally get why this movie is that for a lot of people, because there just is so little. Now there's a lot. Now that we're inundated within the market, I feel like there's a lot of like, we got to throw a queer person in here because we think it's going to make us money. Not this movie, because obviously this is a labor of love. But it's a really different world than probably when this person was 13 and had absolutely, it was very difficult to get anything that felt even remotely like representation. So complete respect to our 10 out of 10 review.
So would you, Chelsey, like to read the 1 out of 10 then?
Sure, I'll be the snotty one. Okay. 1 out of 10. Where's the comedy? Even Dan Levy and Aubrey Plaza couldn't save this disaster of a film. Funny it was not. Not only did I not laugh, but I had a hard time rooting for anyone in this film. The entire family was so unlikable. The only interesting character was Jane, who they treated like crap and couldn't even bother to acknowledge her. They took Superior and Entitled to a new level. Why do they keep giving Kristen Stewart acting jobs? Her acting has to be one of the worst out there. She had the same depressing mellow tone expression throughout the entire movie. They seem to have written movie twice. Throughout the entire movie. You can cut that how you want. Yeah, right. I was like, yeah, I agree with most of this, except I do not appreciate the Kristen Stewart hate. She may not have the widest range, but she's good at what she does.
Right. I did love her in Spencer. I will say that much. Like, she did a very good Princess Diana.
Yeah,
you should
I haven't
see
seen
it.
I heard
oh my
that
gosh,
she
was
so
great
good
in that movie.
It's on my list.
Is that a movie or a series?
Yeah, it's a movie. It's a good airplane watching movie. I'll tell you that much because that's how I watched it. So.
For sure.
But it's actually pretty good. And I actually really like Kristen Stewart in this movie. I think it really plays to the character that she is in this movie and what she has to go through.
Totally. Yeah. She's the right actor for this character, I think. I don't think it was badly cast at all. I think it just, it was hard when you don't have, like, she doesn't have chemistry with the other, what's her name? I always forget. What's her
Mackenzie
character?
Davis. Oh, Harper. Harper is her character.
Yeah. She just doesn't have chemistry with Harper. And so it's like that is really, to me, the main issue. Because even if like this toxic relationship was happening, but it was like, they're hot together, like maybe it could have been like, but they just don't have it. Whereas Kristen Stewart and Aubrey Plaza have it like immediately.
Had so much chemistry.
Immediately.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been great. I just think it would have been so fun if she left this toxic thing and went with Aubrey, but I'm sure we'll talk more about that too.
And that we will. So without further ado, I'll get into our notes.
All right.
Cool beans. So we open up our Christmas movie on very artistic vignettes of Abby and Harper's relationship over about a year, maybe a year and a half to 2 years. We've got certain points in their relationship where they're moving in together, they're celebrating different holidays, they have New Year's, and so on and so forth. And then we land with the actual opening of the movie where Abby and Harper are taking a tour of Christmas Tree Lane. And this part is hilarious because the tour guide is telling them about all the different facts of this Christmas Tree Lane.
I would love that tour. The tour guide is Michelle. I forgot her name, but she's a comedian and she's so funny.
Is it Michelle Buteau?
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
She's hilarious.
So at one point in time, Abby's kind of sullen. She's not really a big Christmas person, but Harper is. And so Harper says, come on, I want to show you something. This will get you in the Christmas spirit. And she takes Abby up on top of a roof, just a stranger's roof. And she
stressful.
They look down this Christmas tree lane and see all the lights. And Harper turns to Abby and it's like, can't you feel that magical feeling? And Abby's kind of like, I guess. But then they start to get chased off the roof by a Mrs. Claus dominatrix who is played by Daisy in Bones, which is hilarious to me, but she is phenomenal. And so during this chase off scene, Abby ends up falling off the roof onto a air-filled like reindeer or something like that, or is it a Santa Claus?
Which is so scary because she could have died.
I don't
She
understand.
could have totally died.
She was hanging off and then she's like, oh, wait, I'm going to get you down. And she leaves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what?
Oh, she went to go get down.
What was she going to do from down there? Whoops.
She's going to just do like,
just
here.
like,
yeah.
Okay.
And this
Abby
is
smaller than
red
Harper.
flags number one. I'm just like,
it's like the beginning of the horror movie where like things are nice and then something unnerving happens, but it's not the actual horror, but it sets a new tone. That's what that is. Because I can't help but be like, she should be dead, and then where would we be?
I was like, oh my gosh, that is so. So after Abby successfully makes landfall and Harper comes and finds her, they take off into an alleyway and Harper basically pins her up against the wall and says, hey, come home with me for Christmas. And so finally Abby agrees. And I don't know what was going on in Harper's head because the next morning they wake up and Harper is suddenly panicking. She's like, do not come home with me for Christmas. And Abby's like, oh, it's fine. I already figured it out. I'm going to have John watch the pets that I was pet sitting for. And I'm really excited about this. This is going to be great. Your parents are going to love me. And she's like, okay, sure. All right. Okay. I did this to myself.
Yeah. Great moment number 1 to tell the truth.
Right? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
There are so many moments.
Uh-huh.
So we see Abby hanging out with her friend John, who's Dan Levy. Phenomenal. He is basically his true and proud self. And I love him so much for it. And she gives him the rundown on all the different pets that she takes care of. She takes care of fish, dogs, cats, like everything in between. And she's got different schedules for all of them. And I'm like, how many houses are you pet sitting for? No idea. So on their way back, they make a pit stop at the jeweler's and Abby picks up an engagement ring. And John is like, excuse me, why would you want to take part in this patriarchal thing? Like, she's not your property.
Right.
Yes. Abby tells him, I was originally planning to propose on New Year's Eve, but now that I'm going home with her on Christmas, I think I'm going to ask for her dad's permission to marry her, and I'm going to propose on Christmas morning. And this is also where John is like, excuse me? She's not property. What? You're going to participate in this?
Also, like, how do you propose to someone who you've never met their family? Like, is
I
that
have no
normal?
idea.
Do people do that?
It feels
Like, that alone should be like, and 1 to 2 years is a long time because it seems like she has a decent relationship with their family. Like, I guess if they were estranged, then it might be normal.
Yeah.
But
That's
like 1 to 2
true.
years, never met them. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm going to propose to her. Why not?
And like doesn't know anything about them, like doesn't know how rich they are and doesn't know how that obviously
how she grew up,
closeted,
like,
or it's just like a really it's a bit of a plot hole there. But
yeah, come on, Abby. Yep.
Yeah. To be fair, I didn't meet my in-laws until at least 2 years in, but they live out of state. So,
but were you proposed at that point?
Not then. No, it took like another 4 or 5 years after that.
Yeah.
So
it's the order. You put the cart before the horse. It feels like something you did in like the war years where you're like, I met this woman from overseas and we're engaged, mom and dad.
Medieval
it's just something you did because you were going to World War II and you had to get married. So you had somebody to come home to. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's see if I can get a little bit lighter in here. Now we've got Harper and Abby in the car, and the two are on their way to Harper's family. And this is where Harper, while driving, makes the decision to confess to Abby that, hey, you remember when I went to go see my family over the summer and I told you that I came out? Well, that's not entirely true. I found out that my dad was running and it just didn't seem like a good time. And she's just so worried about the timing. And so she pulls over, which is smart at least. She at least had the forethought to pull over. But somehow Abby still goes along with it. She's like, no, it's fine. I can pretend to be your straight roommate who just moved into your 1-bedroom apartment.
So 90s, yeah. And this, though, again, to get back in the horror movie sort of perspective, this feels like the Harbinger, where where the man's like, I wouldn't go to that old house if I were you. Like, it's cursed. It's that moment where, like, a decision is made, where it's like, I guess, like, she could have said, you have to take me home now. They both are like, it's okay. Like, we'll just go toward the horrible noise and everything will be fine.
Exactly. I was just about to say, it's like choosing to go check out what that noise was around in the basement.
This is a conservative family Christmas.
So they've made this pact. Abby's like, you know what? I'm going to make them love me. And then when you do come out, they're going to be so happy that we're together. So it's all going to work out in the end. And so they make it over to Harper's families. And her mom, whose name is Tipper. I will never get over that. I'm like, I just think about like cow tipping. I'm just like, what is happening here?
You don't think about Tipper Gore?
No, I've never heard of this person.
So I think that that's a reference because Tipper Gore was the one who created the Filthy 15 back in the 80s, which was all of the albums that had to be marked explicit content, like Prince and Madonna and Motley Crue and all of those different. So she was like very like mom censorship, which honestly, we just did an episode about Marilyn Manson, and it was like, I went back and like listened to a lot of the music that was banned, or not even banned. Like Tipper just wanted to put a little sticker on that said, hey, this has explicit content. And I went and it's like easy to be like, what a moral panic, like, oh, Tipper. But then I went and read the lyrics and I was like, oh, geez, maybe there could be a parent sticker on here. It's fine. It's okay. It's all right. That's who I think of, though. That's the Tipper. Yeah.
But I'm like, I did listen to a lot of Marilyn Manson, and I tell you what.
You're fine. You turned out fine.
Out just fine. I turned out fine. I've got a lot of tattoos. It's fine. I'm a little
But
goth,
I do think
like,
perhaps
cool.
that's the Tipper. Maybe a little bit of it's a very like old world political name. And so I think that could be what that's doing.
So it's like when you have a daughter and you decide, okay, what life do I want you to have?
Yes.
I want you to be an elected politician's wife, and you're going to be in charge of everything. He's not actually going to be in charge of everything. You are. You're going to be the one who turns the head. You're going to be the next Eleanor Roosevelt. It's going to be great. And I'm going to name you Tip.
Oh, check this out. Okay. I just did a little Google. I was like, is Tipper a nickname? And this is specifically about Tipper Gore. And it says it's the nickname of Mrs. Al Gore, born Mary Elizabeth, bestowed because her favorite childhood lullaby was Tippy Tippy Tin. That's all. Don't know what that is. Tippy Tippy Tin.
Oh my. I can't.
I'm here to educate. Yeah.
Which I appreciate. I love to Google. It's one of my favorite pastimes. Oh boy. Moving onward.
All right.
So, we meet Tipper, and then out comes Harper's sister. I think, I don't know who's older. I think they're about the same age. I think Jane might be. No, I don't know. All I know is the prestige order. I don't know their age order.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So out comes Jane. Jane is phenomenal, but none of her family knows it. Like, they do not treat her like she's the phenomenal person she is. But she's so excited. She's so excited to have everybody there. She's like, Abby, you're so great. I'm so glad you're here. And they keep calling her an orphan because her parents died near Christmas. Yeah. And they're like, oh, you poor little orphan. I'm so sorry that you had to live life as an orphan. And she's like, actually, my parents died when I was like 19. So it's not like I grew up without parents.
Oh, and Tipper's like, oh, so you're one of the lucky ones.
Yes.
Like, she's like, oh,
sure. It just means that I missed them more. I don't know. So Tipper takes them for a tour of the house. They meet Ted, who's Harper's dad. And then they also take Abby down into Jane's old bedroom, which is down in the basement. And Jane tells them that the reason why her room isn't down in the basement is because she used to sleepwalk and they didn't want her to hurt herself. So they made sure that she was in a safe place. But they also took off the locks because she had a fear of being locked in. So
rightfully so, probably, knowing them.
Yeah.
So while they're checking out all the rooms, they're in Harper's room, and her mom just keeps going on and on about her old high school boyfriend, Cooper. And then they all go to dinner. And then this is where Harper's parents decide that they've invited Cooper to dinner, unbeknownst to everybody else.
Mm-hmm. It's classic.
And I'm sorry. His name is Connor.
Cooper Connor.
Easy to say.
Yeah.
I didn't blink an eye.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
So Cooper Connor is there, and he's infatuated with Harper still. And Harper's like, why are you here? So it's very uncomfortable for everybody involved, especially Abby and Harper. And so Harper's like, we're going to go to the bathroom real quick. And so they head out. Harper apologizes. She says, don't worry, there's not going to be any more surprises. I promise, no more exes to speak of. And then they make up, they head out of the bathroom, and they run straight into one of Harper's other exes, Riley, who is the beloved Aubrey Plaza. Be still my beating heart. I love it.
Yes.
As it turns out, she's a doctor, or she's a resident at least. And she's just like, hi, I'm trying to get to the bathroom. Can you guys move? And Harper's like, I'm so sorry. That wasn't planned.
Yeah.
So they make it back to the table, and they continue to at least make it through that dinner. Later on that night, Harper's mom is telling Abby goodnight, and Harper comes downstairs also, says that she just wanted to say goodnight. And after Tipper has left, she gives her some goodnight smooches.
Mm-hmm.
So everything seems okay-ish. Like, it could be okay. We're just going to be here for like 5 days. It's fine. If this is the worst of it, it'll be fine. Then we find out the next morning, Abby calls John to check in on the animals, and he is doing the best job ever with these animals. Abby then tells him Harper isn't out and her parents just don't know that we're together. And he flips his lid.
Yeah, rightly.
Rightly so. He's her voice of reason that she is ignoring. Next, we find out upstairs that there's an extremely intense rivalry between Harper's sister Sloane and Harper. So the way that the dynamics are of the family, Harper is lauded for her career in journalism. Sloane has 2 twins, and she's lauded as being like this perfect mom who gave up her career, and now her and her husband have this basket making business. Not like basket making, but like gift basket curating. And like her parents are just so excited that she's got kids and that she's this perfect mom. And then they've got Jane, who is eccentric and is the only person who knows how to do anything technologically. So they use her to fix the printer and everything. So that is the dynamic of this family. But prior to quitting her job, Sloane was a lawyer. And so Sloane is trying to, stay ahead of the game from Harper, but Harper's the favorite. And they're like, Sloane, you go take care of your kids. I hope that's a decent portrayal. I know that was a lot of back and forth.
Sounds,
So we feel the tension, and then in comes Sloane's husband, Eric. So we've got everybody in the kitchen. They're figuring out their plans, and Jane comes in, and she's just so excited that everybody is there. But she comes into a house full of snowmen, is what I call it, because they're all very cold to her.
Yeah. Not fun. Not a fun house.
No.
Again, a horror house. It does feel like one of those horror movies where people go to like a rich person's house and then the rich people hunt them.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was just thinking of that. What is that movie called? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
Yeah.
Ready or Not is what I'm thinking of.
Ah, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen that movie, but it's on my list too.
It's really good. Yeah. It's very
There
good.
are so many. Because Harper's dad is running for mayor, there's this big thing about, making sure that he's presentable to the public. So while her dad comes into the kitchen, everybody's all happy to see him. So he gets all of his daughters together, and then her mom takes photos. She's like his PR person at this point. So he announces that later on that night, they're going to meet a major donor at the Christmas party, and everybody better be on their best behavior, and that they're going to be taking their big family photo that night. So next, we see all the sisters, Abby and Eric and the kids, go to do some ice skating. Harmless enough, right? No. This is where Sloane and Harper decide that they're going to race each other on the ice.
Oh, God, yeah.
Classic sibling rivalry. I can't remember. You have a sibling, right, Chelsey?
I do, yeah.
Did you ever have any rivalry?
We did not, because he is 8 years younger than me. So it feels like it would be really gross to have too much of a rivalry. But no, he works on American Hysteria. He's our research assistant. And we had a very positive relationship. We just have always been collaborators on a lot of projects. So no, we did not have this type of relationship.
Yeah.
Celeste is an only child, but she has had cousins. Did you ever have any rivalry like this with your cousins?
No, never.
No.
Is this classic
Mackenzie?
rivalry?
Right.
Who I know?
I did.
It kind of sounds like you did.
I did. So I have 2 brothers. I have one who's less than a year younger than me. So we're 360 days apart.
Okay.
And then I've got one who's 7 years younger than me. So I've got one who I was basically like a mom to. And then I've got one who there were times when we literally were just pulling each other's hair until we were crying. And neither one of us wanted to let go because we didn't want the other person to have the upper hand. So,
yeah.
And then
similar.
Even better, we did martial arts together. So that worked out real well. At one point in time, I do recall we broke a couch because I kicked him into the couch and it broke. But
So am I.
so we had a lot of rivalry. It was a good time. We're great now. He's got 2 kids. Oh, that's so weird. Sorry, I just made that connection.
Oh, it came flooding back. Yeah.
It came full circle. But anyway, don't mind me. So now they are doing some ice skating Olympics, and they both continuously run into the other poor ice skaters who are on this rink and just knocking people over left and right. And Jane is in charge of timing them, but she forgot to hit start. So Eric's like, don't tell them. Don't tell them that you forgot to hit start.
Yeah. Just say a number.
Kicked out, literally crashing into people somehow. Someone's not kicking them
They're
out.
very self-involved.
Yeah, they are.
They don't care about anyone else.
Mm-mm-mm.
Well, their dad's running for mayor. I'm sure this is a
Yes,
great
he
look for
is.
them.
Right.
So we cut back to the party of that evening, and they're all gathered for the family photo. And this is where Tipper asks Abby to take the photo because they want to have it just the family. And so Abby takes like 3 photos, and Tipper comes up. She looks at all of them. She's like, blurry, blurry, blurry. Nope, these just won't work. We'll have to go ahead and get it another night. And so she's just like disregarding Abby fully. This party, though, there are many, many people there, including one Miss Riley. So Abby catches Riley's eye as Harper is taken off to go meet some of her dad's donors and make an impression on them as his lauded journalist daughter. And here's where we find out that she writes for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And at one of the tables, they meet Miss Lemon. So while Harper is off, Abby's perusing the food table, and here's where Sloane comes over to her and she tries to intimidate her. And she's like, excuse me, you are her roommate in her 1-bedroom apartment? And Abby's like, oh, yeah, no, we took everything out of the pantry and I live in the pantry. It's fine. There's enough room there, I swear.
Another good Kristen Stewart line delivery for sure. That's fine. It's not.
Nothing to worry about here. Move along. And then Sloane tells her straight up, she's like, I'm bored of this conversation. I'm leaving.
I don't blame her. She's like, I don't want to
Yeah.
be talking to you anymore.
So back at the table with Miss Levin, Harper's dad is talking to her and he's trying to like pitch her, but she's like, no. Let me stop you right there. I like you. And I want to let you know that I'm a kingmaker here, but I'm not just looking at you. I'm looking at your entire family. So y'all better be on your best behavior. And so Harper hears this, of course, and is like, ooh.
Well, and also it is not addressed in this movie, really, that this is like a Republican family, right? Like it is, but it's like very like cleaned up,
Tongue-in-cheek.
where it's like, these are like Reagan like Republicans, or like they're like they're not, like, it just seems like so weird that it's never really addressed that like to be a Republican at this time would be to have some kind of like anti-LGBTQ stance, right? It's just kind of like, it's more like they're less of Republicans and more just like general politicians. Like they're like, it's a weird thing that they did there for sure.
Yeah, they're trying to keep it like under wraps, if you will, but also still make it known that
They didn't want to like
this
go
is a
into it, which I don't blame.
Yeah. We've got much other problems
Yes,
to focus
yes,
on here,
it's true.
like Abby
Very
and
true.
Harper. So Harper finally makes it back to Abby that she is ditched for God knows how long. And here her high school friends come over, and I couldn't even tell you their names. They didn't really matter. They're just there. And then Connor comes over and he crowds them and he asks Harper if he can talk to her for a second. And this is where Harper's high school friends are infatuated with Connor. One of them's like, if she doesn't sleep with him, I will. And she's like, oh, wait, no, I won't. That would be gross. But in this hideaway conversation between Connor and Harper, he says, I'm so sorry about the surprise dinner. I didn't know that you didn't know, but I'd really love to hang out again. Can we get some dinner again? Just like us. And she's like, okay, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So later on, John calls Abby and she heads outside. And this is where he makes it very well known that he's keeping tabs on everybody. He's like, you do know that the country club that you're at is horrible against women. They didn't let women in until 19 something or another. And she's like, excuse me, how do you know this? He's like, I'm tracking you. I track everybody.
Yes, I would be doing the same thing. I felt a deep kinship with him at that moment. It's like I found the blueprints to the house.
I do know how to make an escape plan. I will be there T-minus 30.
We all need a friend like him.
It's true. It's true.
Oh, it's so good. So then he tells her that she needs to get out of the closet, and then he asks where to buy more fish. Around the corner, after she has gotten off the phone with John, she sees Riley. Riley comes over and she's like, sorry, I was just out here and I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I can relate to what you were just telling him because Abby was telling Dan, I don't know about all of this. I feel very uncomfortable, as one should. But when Riley addresses it, Abby just plays it off. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about, because she's trying to play straight and she doesn't know whether or not to trust Riley yet. So we go back inside and Ted, who's Harper's dad, is called to get on stage to give a campaign speech, during which we see everybody in the crowd, including Harper and Abby, and they're quite close. And this is where Harper starts playing with Abby's hand. And over across the way, Sloane catches a little bit of this flirtation. And so she's making a mental note to destroy her sister at some point.
Another horror movie moment really creates that tension where you're like the killer's right there. You're being too loud. The killer's right there.
Stop breathing so loud. Yeah.
Yes.
That is something about horror movies. I'm like, why are you breathing so loud? I don't understand.
Sure is.
So let's see. They all return back to the house and Abby is downstairs. Harper's upstairs in her room, and Harper sends her a text message asking what she's doing. And Abby sends her a selfie of her brushing her teeth. And Harper then sends her a little risque selfie trying to entice her to come upstairs for a little sexy time. And so Abby decides, okay, I'm going to brave the terrain of this house. And so she's on her way to Harper's room and she ends up hiding in the closet because she hears Harper's mom come downstairs.
I would not have gone out of that room. They could have sent me the sexiest picture I've ever seen, and I would have stayed firmly behind that door because I would have been absolutely terrified. Just terrified.
Yes. I'm like, you don't know what's happening. You don't know how loud people are. You don't know how light of a sleeper people are. There are many things you can do on just your phone. Like, you just stick to the
very
phone.
True. Great. Just, that's it's sexy. It's all its own. Just make that work for the next 2 days. Yeah.
You're trying to be discreet. This is not discreet, especially when you're in the closet and all of a sudden the rover goes off and it starts knocking everything down.
God, yeah. It was very stressful. Very stressful.
So stressful.
Stressful.
This is where you're pretty sure acid's going to get thrown in her face. Like,
yes. Yeah, for sure.
So Tipper opens the door because obviously it's been very loud in that closet. And Abby is like, oh my God, I was sleepwalking. Thank you for finding me.
Well, could have been worse. It's an okay excuse. She's used to it from her daughter, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the night terrors.
It's not too far off. So she scurries on back downstairs because that's the only appropriate response to have after you're soon-ish to be. Your girlfriend's mom finds you in the closet after you were pretending to be straight. It's the only logical step. So then we see that Harper has made it past everybody and has slipped downstairs and makes it to Abby's, and we can assume things happen.
Yes.
So the next morning, especially when we see them the next morning, because they're both, it's just Harper who's in her underwear and Abby's in like a shirt and some shorts. So we got that going on. And then Tipper ends up waking the two of them up, and Harper hastily gets dressed and ends up hiding behind the door because Tipper's like, I'm so sorry. This used to be the twins' room whenever they come over. We had to have a place for you. So all of their toys are in here, and I'm sorry to have to wake you up, but I have to come in right now to get something for them. So then, while Harper is still hiding behind the door, Ted comes downstairs too and says that Miss Levin is coming to the Christmas Eve party. So this is a party that the family host at their house for all of their neighbors. And her mom is freaking the fuck out. She's like, really? Another person that I have to prepare this party for? Oh, fine. So back in the kitchen, everybody has made it upstairs, fully clothed. Nobody knows that Harper was down there other than the twins. And it's decided that Sloan and Abby and the kids will all go to the mall because, as it turns out, during this Christmas Eve party, they have a giant white elephant gift exchange, and they want to take the twins to go get photos with Santa because we're not sure how much longer they'll believe in Santa. So Sloan and Abby leave for the mall. And while there, Sloan makes the very wise decision of leaving the twins with Abby. So,
oh boy.
They ask her, obviously, why was Harper hiding in your room? And Abby very smartly is like, we were playing a game. We were playing hide and seek. That's what we were doing. And luckily, that is a game that they're very familiar with.
And here we have the horror movie trope of the evil twins.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And they truly are evil. They're so evil.
And they're creepy.
So she's trying.
Very.
They're so creepy.
Right? They do belong
It
in a
is.
horror
It's a horror
movie.
movie.
Those children.
So while she has the twins, she's trying to be friendly. She's trying to be cordial. She's like, okay, I don't know what to get for everybody. So what should I get as this white elephant gift? And she's trying to make some suggestions. And while she's turned around, the twins then, as evil as they are, put a necklace in her bag. And then
stressful.
Abby turns around and she sees Ted's campaign manager right there.
Oh,
And so
come on.
she makes a little
lot.
random small talk and then heads out, only for the sound of blaring sirens to start in, because obviously there's the security things that have picked up the fact that there is a unpurchased item in her bag. So then the mall security has the most intense reaction where they're like, they surround her and they're like, put the bag down, put the bag down. I've never seen such an intense security mall reaction.
Very intense.
So they take Abby into, I don't know, the back half of the mall that you don't get to see. And they start to interrogate her in the dark.
Yeah. Very, very over.
They wanted to be Mueller and Scully, but they just didn't make it. So they're like, we're going to do this mall cop style.
Yeah, it's one of the very, again, the almost 2000s comedy sequences that happens that are just sort of like, what is this? Why are we doing this? Goes on too long. It's fun.
It's super fun. So they all eventually make it back home. And everybody's heard that Abby got caught shoplifting. And so now they all think that she's a thief. And they then say that they don't want Abby at dinner because of this, because it would be a bad look for Ted in his campaign. So Harper then goes to Abby and says, can we just hang out after dinner? My friends want to go out and I'd really like to have some time with you away from my family. And so while they're all at dinner, Abby goes out on the town by herself and she runs into Riley. So they go and they get a drink and Riley takes her to a drag bar. Phenomenal drag bar.
Oh,
Love their performances.
Just great. I know. And it's all the best people. It's Ben Delacreme, Jinx Monsoon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have that in my trivia notes.
Yeah, Ben Delacreme does a show with actually some of my friends who do burlesque and drag stuff in Seattle.
No.
And it's called, what is it called now? It used to be called Jingle All the Gay. But it's, really great. It's really great. I don't know if it goes on tour, but I would highly recommend. It's split off into 2 different drag Christmas shows, so I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I'm glad that it felt like it felt like Ben Delacreme deserved to be the Christmas drag queen in this movie.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. So while we've got our performers on stage, Riley and Abby are getting to know each other. And Abby says, I know that you and Harper used to date. Harper told me that you were her first girlfriend. And Riley tells her side of things, that freshman year, they were friends and then they became more than friends, but nobody knew. And then they used to write letters back and forth. And then all of a sudden, one of Harper's friends found out. And this is when Harper said that Riley was gay and wouldn't leave her alone. So she outed her to everybody, which is not cool, man.
Not cool. Ugh. Gross. She's just so unlikable.
She really is.
She
I
is.
love Harper's.
Truly.
Is it Harper?
Horrible girlfriend.
No, I love Riley's character. She's such a class act, too. Her character.
She's
Such a class act.
She's so likable. Love it.
Really, truly. Totally different. Totally different vibe.
Polar opposite.
And I did really think that they were going to maybe do that, right? And in the movie and like go in the direction of like, you deserve to like be with someone who's out and who like takes you to drag shows. Because that was such an obvious like, here's what it's like to be with someone who is out. Like you could go and do all these
This is
fun
something
things.
familiar to us.
Yeah.
Yes, and not do like a stuffy, rich Republican dinner. You can actually go and live in this other way. So it felt like a great opportunity to give Abby's character a little bit more like agency and a little bit more self-respect. But alas, that is not the story we were told.
Right. So while they're out, Harper texts Abby and asks her to head to the bar. And while they're at the bar, Harper ditches Abby, obviously. And so then Abby's like, I would like to go. Harper says that she wants to stay. So Abby leaves.
So mean. It's just so...
It's trashy.
Yeah.
No.
All of the above. Just, it's just it's heartbreaking for sure. And I think it's like a familiar feeling, whether you're gay or straight, when like the person that you're supposed to be with is like, just disregards you for like, just for some reason. And a lot of times it is someone from their past. But yeah, just, I think that's a feeling that a lot of us have had. And especially people who were queer and were dating women, and then women had like the old boyfriend. And that used to be very much, now things are a lot different because gender has evolved in ways. But back then it was very much like, if you like start dating a man after you've dated me, that was like something wrong with that. So it was like a really complicated time, but that was like a big offense at one time. And I'm glad it's not now because we don't need those lines. But I think it's a familiar feeling for people watching this movie to be like, oh, you're hanging out with your ex-boyfriend. What's that about? Yeah.
It's just like hanging out with any ex, honestly.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
like, there's no point for it unless like,
No need.
there's no reason for it. No reason for it.
Unless everybody's happy with it. I walk my partner's ex-girlfriend's dog quite a bit. It can work, but everybody has to be on board.
Everybody has to be on board. Yeah, that is exactly true. Everybody has to be in the loop. Otherwise, it is not okay. So we cut to Harper closing down the bar with Connor. I keep calling him Cooper.
I don't blame you.
He looks like a
Completely Yeah. Sorry to any Coopers or Connors out there.
I know.
But you could be either.
Either or. So they say goodnight, and Connor asks if there was anybody else, and that was the reason why they broke up. And she tells him, no, there wasn't anybody else. And then they just go their separate ways. The next morning, Abby wakes up and she sees that Harper texted at like 2 a.m. and went up to go wake up Harper to check in on her. And she wanted to make sure that she's okay. But then Harper does the other horrible, horrible, horrible thing of saying, you know, you're just suffocating me right now. And I just need you, I need you to give me some space. And Abby's like,
so mad.
You're basically shoving me back in the closet.
Just
so awful.
incredibly, there's no other word for it, bitchy. Just bitchy behavior. Just so mean. That is just like so manipulative. The suffocating thing is almost unforgivable to me. It's like, that's the point at which I'm like, oh, for me, there's no going back. You've very much shown your, like what you're willing to do to get out of accountability. And it is horror movie level. So
it's like, all you've done is ignore me and leave me hanging and completely ditch me for everybody else. And you have the audacity to call me suffocating because you're ignoring me? Good Lord.
No way.
So Abby storms out, as she should. And that's when Tipper comes in and tells Harper that she's got a long list of errands to do and she needs her help. So Abby gets to the basement and she tries to pack up, or she tries to get back home, and she realizes that it's going to cost her like $1,000 to get back home. And so then she
With
calls
$1,000
John.
Uber,
I know.
which is so funny.
I'm like, I think the most I've ever spent on an Uber is like $60. I can't even imagine.
I didn't know someone would go that far, but I got to pick you up. But that's nice. Nice to know I could drop $1,000
right?
if I really need to.
That's when you know you've got a real friend. So she talks to John on the phone and she tells him what's happening. And she really asks for his opinion. And he's like, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about this. And he hangs up. So then Abby turns to the only other reliable person who's been nice to her, and she calls Riley and sees if she's busy. She's not, and so they go out onto the town, and while they're out, Harper texts Abby asking if they can talk later, to which Abby says yes. But while Harper and Jane are in the wine store picking up a case of wine for the party, Harper sees Abby and Riley walking down the street, and Harper is very upset about this.
And I hope she's upset. And I hope that it hurts.
It's so good. So then we get the great move where Jane drops the entire box of wine and then drops it again to where everything is smashed. It's perfect.
Poor sweet Jane.
I know. I love her so much.
Sweet Jane. Yeah.
So Abby gets back to the house and asks where to put the white elephant gift. And Tippy is just snippy as all get out. And she tells her, I can't tell you where to put everything. You're supposed to put it underneath the tree. Where else would it go? And then she decides to insinuate that Abby took her Christmas brooch.
Oh,
She's
gosh.
like, if it ends up on my dresser, there will be no harm, no foul.
No
And
questions
Abby's
asked.
like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And this is where Ted comes in and says, don't worry, just no more of it. He's just trying to make peace. He's like, okay, we're over this. We're done. So everybody's putting the presents underneath the tree, and Jane brings in this gigantic present. And then Ted asks Jane to do the only thing he knows that she's good at and fix the printer.
There's one in every family. Yeah, that is my brother. It is not me. Yeah.
So Harper is upset about seeing Abby, and she asks what she did today. But right at that moment, Ted begins introducing his daughters to Miss Levin, who has shown up. And she says, Sloane is the super mom, Harper's my powerhouse, and Jane is the only reason why internet works here.
Horrible.
So while at the party, the twins begin to sing in the horrible, terrible, evil, maniacal twin way. And then Riley begins to nuzzle up to Abby, and they begin to hang out the entire evening.
Ugh.
And Riley notices that while she's trying to have a conversation with Abby, Abby's extremely distracted because in walks Connor, and he goes straight to Harper.
I think it's Cooper.
Oh yeah.
I'm
No, I
fucking
did
with you.
write Connor. That's right. I know. I realized that, and I was like, oh yeah, no. His name is Cooper. Cooper Connor. So Abby tells Riley that she wasn't sure she could feel closer to a human being before they got there. And now she feels as if Harper is a completely, entirely different person. And then she explains that I was going to propose, like this was all planned. And then Riley turns to her and says, you know what? I'm going to go get you a drink.
Yeah. Again,
Good
a
friend.
considerate
Good
person.
friend right there.
Yeah.
Right. And then my favorite part, John knocks on the door. Tipper opens it and he's like, I'm here for Abby. And Tipper's like, you must be Abby's ex-boyfriend. And
Yeah.
he starts to deepen his voice. And he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm her ex-boyfriend.
I love how he just walks in though and just shouts, "Hey!" Like, no, chill.
Again, a horror movie.
He's like,
thing
we're
where
going.
he's like, I just gotta get her out.
Yep.
I just gotta get her out.
Oh man.
So because Abby sees John and she sees Harper talking to Connor, she goes up to John, tells him, hold on just 1 second. And she goes straight up to Harper and says, we're done. And she leaves. She goes straight downstairs and begins to pack. And Harper freaks the fuck out, follows her down the stairs, and they have a fight. And Harper explains that love has always been a competition in her house, and she's just so scared to tell them because she's so afraid to lose them. And she's also afraid to lose Abby. And then Abby goes and she hugs her. She's very considerate of Harper's feelings, even though Harper's not terribly considerate of hers. And she says that no matter what, she's not losing her. And so right as they're about to kiss, in walks Sloane. She's got all the dirt she needs now.
And Alison Brie is great in this role also. Oh, she's
so good.
Really good. It's perfect
So
casting.
phenomenal. What I also love is that John has decided that he's taking a liking to Connor/Cooper, and he goes right up to him.
Oh,
he's like,
hello.
so you lift?
Hey, yeah.
And Connor's like, what's your bed? And he's like, 1,000 pounds.
Oh my God. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah.
Is that a normal amount people lift? Yeah.
Normal, right? So at this point in time, we head back downstairs to Harper and Sloane, and this is where the gloves come off. Harper is begging Sloane not to tell her parents yet. Sloane is like, nope, I've got all the dirt that I need. And all of a sudden she hears a bump going on in the closet because she really came downstairs to look for her twins. But instead she finds Eric, her husband, in the closet making out with Carolyn, who is the campaign manager.
Yep.
And rather than be upset, she's like, Eric, I told you we were going to keep this a secret. Not here. Not now. You're supposed to be more discreet than this.
Cheating badly. Mm-hmm. Worse crime than cheating is cheating badly.
Because they are separated, but they're keeping it a secret from my understanding.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Not swingers, which is what I immediately thought and hoped, but alas.
So then Harper turns to Sloane and says, looks like I'm not the only one keeping a secret. And Sloane has had it. She fucking books it to Harper and tackles her to the ground. They have a full out brawl in this house while the party is going on in the living room. They are destroying the kitchen. And eventually they make it into the living room where Mrs. Levin has picked up Jane's wonderful present. She has opened it, and it is a painting, this beautiful painting of Main Street. And after Sloane and Harper stumble and rumble into the living room, Harper takes the painting and she smashes it over Sloane's head.
What a bitch.
And has ruined this beautiful painting.
It's there is no coming back from that.
That solidified it. Yep. I'm like, I'm done.
I wouldn't be able to forgive that. Like, even if, like, it's one thing to be treated like shit, but when you see some, like, your person treating other people like shit, it's like there's something, it's like easier to advocate for other people. It's like, that would have been like, oh, that, I'm done with this relationship forever.
Right. Oh, my.
But too bad.
And especially like a sibling when you're adults.
Yeah. And then seeing the reaction, I would have been like, you hurt Jane. You hurt the only good person in your family.
In your family.
In a profound way. Horrible. Poor Jane.
This is where Sloane tells everybody that Harper's gay. And rather than own up to it, Harper says, she's lying. She's lying. And she's looking Abby straight in the eye when she says this. And Abby just walks out that house.
As
so
she should.
John, being the very good friend that he is, goes after her. So John speaks up. No, Jane speaks up. Sorry. Jane speaks up about having this painting happened. And she says, I'm something. I am part of this family. And then she body slams the other two and they go tumbling into the Christmas tree.
Good.
And Ted is like, enough. Yeah. So we cut to John and Abby, and they meet up outside, and he asks if she wants to go for a walk. This is where Abby tells John about her parents and how much they loved Christmas. And ever since they died, she couldn't do Christmas by herself, but she was really, really hoping that this year would be different because she came home with Harper. So John tells Abby that Harper not coming out has absolutely nothing to do with her. He explains that when you came out, you were loved, you were supported by it. But when I came out, my dad kicked me out of the house and didn't talk to me for 13 years. No matter what, it's terrifying to come out, and you have to be ready for that. So Abby says, I want to be with somebody who's ready. And John hugs her back, which is the appropriate response.
Yes.
So back at the party, everybody is leaving, and Riley comes up to Harper and asks if she's okay. And Harper just flat out apologizes to her, like, sorry for treating you so badly.
Good.
And Riley, like 10 years too late, I'm sure. But
yeah,
but
long
we'll take
overdue.
it.
Yeah.
So Riley reinstates something that she should know and says, you've got a good one. Abby's a good one. And then she leaves. Ted apologizes to Miss Levin for the spectacle, and Ted asks his daughter after Miss Levin leaves, what the fuck happened? So he then starts to reprimand Sloane for lying. And just at that moment, Abby shows up and Harper finally lets it out. Sloane wasn't lying. I'm gay and I'm in love with Abby. And I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I just know how much appearances matter to you. And she regrets how she hurt Riley, but she couldn't do that to Abby. This is like 3 days too late into horrible, horrible treating of somebody. And Harper says that she's done being scared and she's done keeping secrets. And she tells Abby that she loves her so much. And everybody stands there so quietly. And then Sloane stands up and says that they're getting a divorce, that her and Eric are getting a divorce. And she didn't mention it because without her family, she means absolutely nothing to them. And then Jane, ever the wonderful Jane, comes over and says, I don't have any secrets, but I'm an ally.
So funny. Such a good moment.
At this point, Ted leaves the room and Abby tells everybody she's going. And Harper walks right up to her and says, I did it. And Abby says, the only thing that's appropriate, it's too late.
Good for her.
And it should be too late.
That's right. It's been far too late for so long. So Harper begins to cry. Tipper goes after Ted to try and talk to him. And she says to him, I always wanted to take karate. And I hate flowers. But we've been so focused on being perfect. And it's caused our family so much pain. And from what I see, we are so far from perfect. In the kitchen, all the sisters are coming together and they're finally apologizing to one another. They're being very sisterly, very considerate. And Tipper comes in and says, he just needs some time. Makes sense. For he's
all
being
the things
portrayed
that
as.
just unfolded. Yeah.
So we cut to the convenience store and we've got John and Abby and they're talking and she asks him about the animals and he says, we need to talk about the fish, by the way.
I love how he's like pointing out like
So
all the bad things in his food and then proceeds to throw them in his cart.
Yeah.
Nothing tastes better than dye yellow number 7. Yeah. Like, it's so good. So as they walk out of the store, Harper has peeled into the parking lot and she apologizes and says that no matter what, she is willing to make up for everything that she just did wrong in the last like 4 or 5 days for the rest of their lives. And Abby asks, what about your parents? Harper responds with, I don't care what they think. I only care about you. This has been such a long time for a realization like this to come up.
Yeah.
That Abby decides to forgive her and kisses her and they all make up.
I know.
Yeah, that is what happens. Yeah, it's not very satisfying for a romantic comedy. It's not that moment that you hope to achieve, the money shot moment of the kiss. It's just not effective in this case.
But anyway, they've decided they're going to give it a go again. And the next morning is Christmas morning. And they are all together, including John. I don't know how they convinced them to let John stay over, but I love it. I'm in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
And
they better.
So during this Christmas morning of miracles, the twins come over and they say that they're the ones who put the necklace in Abby's bag. And so that has been cleared up. And Ted comes downstairs and he tells them all that he's completely sunk all of their savings into his campaign and that he just wanted them to be proud of him. Excuse me, why was there not a record scratch moment at sinking their entire family savings into this campaign?
Much would that be? They're like rich. They're like next level rich. So it feels like that would be in the millions for sure. And why? Why would you do that? Why did you do that? And nobody knew. That's really, really, really bad to do.
It's really concerning. And they're not old, but they're like late 50s, early 60s probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's very concerning.
Very concerning.
I know.
So he turns to them all and he says, "I'm so sorry for making you fight for my love all of this time." So to the tune of Oh Holy Night, we see the entire gang enjoying their Christmas. And then Ted gets a call from Miss Levin and she tells him, "I like you. And I don't know if this business with Harper is true, but if she can remain quiet, a don't ask, don't tell, then we can still be in business together." We don't see it, but he turns back to his family after the call is over and says, "It's just not going to work out." So we assume he says no. So then
it's good. It's good. I don't want him to be a Republican politician, so it's good.
I want him to like be supportive of his gay daughter.
Yeah, I want him to rewind and not ruin their lives also by spending all the money.
Oh, not only that, but just like clear the amount of trauma that he's instilled in all of his daughters. My
that too.
The least he can do, right?
It's not all about the money.
Mm-hmm. All about the money. That's all I got of that song. So then they all decide, okay, it's time to take the family photo. And Tipper asks John to take the photo for them. And Tipper turns to Abby and is like, "Excuse me, you're supposed to be in this photo over here." And so she encourages her to come and join the photo. And so Abby has been invited into the family, essentially. So we cut to a year later and we see that Jane has published her book that she has spent 10 years writing. And she is like a science fiction novelist who's built this entire world, and she is doing fabulously with this book.
It's such a nice moment.
So
That's the
deserving.
Romantic moment for me. It's like,
Yes.
that's the feeling that I get where I'm like, oh, her and her book are together at last.
Yes. And also the fact that her and
Feels
John
more romantic.
are like BFFs now.
They're like,
Like-
best friends.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. They're so deserving of each other. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Very much so. Yes. I'm so glad that Jane finally won something.
Yeah.
Like something worked
Yes.
out for her.
Mhm.
So at her book reading, we see Abby and Harper coming in the back, and Harper has the engagement ring on. And later on, they see John and Jane doing the book signing. And then the whole family goes to a movie. No idea which movie, but they're all hanging out together. And that's the important thing. The end.
The end.
I think it was A Christmas Carol. It's like the same movie every year.
Was it?
I think
Okay.
it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Muppets
Class.
Christmas Carol?
Maybe. Who knows?
Scrooge. That's the one.
They're not that cool of a
No.
family. Yeah.
They just change the Christmas Carol every year. So you never know which Christmas Carol you're getting. You just know that it's a Christmas Carol.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
So,
Right. Great
a movie.
recap. Good job.
Yeah.
Oh, so luckily, a movie about lesbians does pass the Bechdel test.
Yes. Thank God.
Imagine if it didn't.
We
What
reached
kind of
that bar.
movie?
Yeah. What kind of a weird movie would that be?
They're all just talking about Cooper. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
It was
Do you
all
guys
about
think
the
Cooper's-
ex.
So, some fun trivia about this movie. This film is a pioneering holiday-themed romantic comedy centered around a same-sex couple. In fact, the movie itself features several LGBTQ actors, including Kristen Stewart, Dan Levy, Victor Garber, and Aubrey Plaza.
Do you know that this is the way that I found out that Aubrey Plaza is queer or bisexual? I'm not sure what, I don't think she used specific terms, but yeah, like I was looking at your trivia and I was like, what?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have, I can't believe the gift that you've given me. I'm watching with my partner right now. We're watching season 2. Finally, we're late of White Lotus. So I'm like very much
nice.
Oh,
Aubrey
White
Plaza like is centered in my life. So yeah,
Mhm.
that was really fun to learn because the whole time I'm just swooning over. She's definitely like one of my number one celebrity crushes for sure. So I'm just happy to
Same.
know there's a chance.
She's
There's
definitely
hope.
in my top 10.
There's
I-
hope.
so
There's
hope.
hope yet.
Now I just need her to notice me.
Yes,
Just kidding.
exactly.
And it is also Clea DuVall, who is a queer actress and director. It is her second film. So lots of queer people in the making of this.
Yeah.
So Candy Cane Lane, which was in the opening film, is a real place in Pittsburgh. The residents of the street agreed to keep their holiday displays up for a few extra weeks in January to accommodate the production. And then for the very intense ice skating, Mackenzie Davis trained for 2 months so that way she could do the scene.
Good for her.
As you mentioned, Chelsey, we have RuPaul Drag Race's alumni, Jinx Monsoon and Ben de la Creme, featured in this film as our drag performers, and they are phenomenal.
Great.
This is the first holiday-themed movie by a major studio to have a score by a female composer. The music is by Amy Doerter.
That's nice.
And then the production wrap party took place in a haunted house, which I thought you would find fun, Chelsey.
I do. That's very appropriate for what we've been talking about.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a haunted, it's a scary movie. It's all it is. And then the convenience store scene at the end was filmed at a Love's travel stop in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
I love a Love's travel stop. It's great service to
They're
America.
littered all over the place.
Yes, they are.
Love them. Well, as our distinguished and honored guest, Chelsey, on our caffeine scale of 1 to 5 espresso shots, how stimulated does this movie keep you? It can be positive, negative, neutral.
I'm going to give it a 5 because I am always like on high alert watching this movie because it feels like a horror movie. It's so ridiculous. It's like there's so much happening. And yeah, in terms of as you're saying, if our rubric is about how stimulated the movie makes me angry, makes me laugh, it makes me, upset at its themes, and it makes me fall in love with Aubrey Plaza because, like, by comparison, Aubrey Plaza in that movie shines even brighter than usual because she's surrounded by so much garbage. So I'm going to give it a 5.
that's funny.
What about you, Celeste?
Oh, mine's a 4. Yeah. Mine's a 4 too. Throughout the movie, I thought Harper's character was such a dick. He was just so rude, so toxic. And then at the end, John's character gives that little speech about how it's a different situation for everyone, their coming out experience. And then I thought, oh my God, am I an asshole for nothing for considering?
You are not.
Okay.
You are not. That was a ridiculous speech.
Okay.
I mean, it was
perfect.
sweet.
It was
but,
sweet.
You know,
yeah.
It's still, sorry, I'm going to interrupt because I do have something to say. I think what this is like, you can excuse away all of the like obscuring of your sexuality, but you're still doing a lot of other bad things. Like you're still like going out with your ex really late. You didn't have to do that. Like you're like gaslighting her. These are not things that fall under the umbrella of like a queer sympathy narrative.
Okay.
You know, it's like, it's hard to come out. It's not great. Usually it doesn't go well. We all go through it, but you can't do all these other things too. Yeah, you can't do all these other things too. So I don't think you were wrong to cringe a bit at that speech. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's kind of like when you listen to like what happens to the lives of serial killers and you're just like, I feel sad for what happened to you, but I do not feel sad for how you used it against other people.
Yes.
there you go.
Mm-hmm. It's not your fault. It's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Not everybody who goes through that turns out to be serial killers.
Exactly.
And not everybody who goes through that has to be a dick to the person who they say they love. So
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. It was hard to
even
root for this
more on theme.
character.
Very
It had like the rom-com ending, but it was just like, it had a bad taste, the whole relationship at the end. So the side characters definitely made the movie for sure. Like
100%.
Yeah.
All the way. You, Kenzie?
I'm in it for Jane all the way.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I could watch Jane. I want an entire movie of just Jane.
Spin-off.
Like,
yeah.
Yes.
It's called Just
I
Jane.
want her
Yeah.
story.
Sequel. Just
Yeah,
Jane.
exactly. Just Jane. Well, Jane and John. We
Sure.
got it
Jane
that
and
way.
John. Perfect.
Yes,
There you
pretty
go.
great. Yep.
Sequel.
But I think this is a 5 also. It invokes many, many a feeling. And every single time, like the second we get to the point in the movie where Harper is telling Abby that she hasn't come out yet and that she's lied for presumably like 6 months, I'm like, you're an asshole. Like,
Yeah.
now you're just being a dick. Like,
Truly.
you could have told her that you didn't come out, and that is okay. You can then have her make a better decision, not trap her into this family horror show for 5 days over Christmas time where she had other plans entirely. and she could have made money. Like that was the whole plan. Like she was going to make money during this time.
Yep. And now Harper has no money because her dad spent it all on the campaign. Really, just a lot of things happened in this.
I will watch this for the Aubrey Plaza all the live long day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's a Christmas classic now. I will be watching it every year. And I don't watch a lot of movies every year. I'm not really a Christmas person, so it did something to make me watch it every year. So
nice.
Well, thank you so much, Chelsey, for joining us.
Oh, you're
really
so welcome.
Appreciate your opinion and your take on this fun film, this roller coaster
really
of a horror film.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys inviting me. Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's really fun to talk about. So get out there and get yourself a Christmas horror movie, everybody.
Right.
Is there anything that you would like to plug, promote, et cetera, Chelsey?
No, just come listen to American Hysteria if you enjoy listening to me talk, because there are hundreds and hundreds of hours of that available for you. Yeah, as we cover fantastical thinking of all kinds, urban legends, moral panics, conspiracy theories. Let's see. Right now we're working on an episode about the sea monkey craze. So that's fun,
so cool.
Which has a twist that you do not expect, that is very dark. As most episodes do. But yeah, that's the thing we're working on right now at this minute. So that'll be out sometime closer to Christmas. So yeah.
Anytime that anybody asks me about like how clowns became scary, I always refer to phantom clowns and phantom killer clowns. And I'm just like, you got to listen to this episode. You got to do it. It's such a good one.
Expert. Yes. I've done a lot of clown studies. That's true.
But yes. So thank you so much. Absolutely loved having you on here. And we really appreciate your time.
It was my pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Caffeinated Flicks. We're a self-published podcast produced and edited by Kenzie.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what films you'd like us to cover, what we can do better, or just say hi.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at caffeinatedflickspod or email us at caffeinatedflicks@gmail.com. We'll catch you on the flick side.